In this video we start actually building the final project that's the culmination of what we've been learning about MySQL connector/net. And at the heart of this project is the database and the tables in the database. And the name of the database that we're going to use is DVD-base, because essentially it's a project for keeping track of DVDs and locating specific movies and TV programs within DVDs. So if we click on the DVD base, these are the three tables that we're going to be using. And if we look at the structure of each of these, the DVD is basically a DVD ID, a title, a location ID, and a genre ID, and a scene. And three of these are special types of fields. The first one is DVD ID as a primary key, which is auto-incremented, which we looked at in previous videos. And these two, location ID and genre ID, are what are known as foreign keys, which map into other tables. They essentially establish a relationship, which gives it the name of relational database. It's the essence of a relational database, that you put only items that are strongly connected in a given table, and then you reference other tables that have strongly connected items via a foreign key. So like location ID will map into another field and another table, and the other table, that field is going to be a primary ID. But you could have multiple location IDs that are the same value because it's a foreign key, whereas location ID and the table that it references is a primary key, and every value is going to be unique. These concepts will become a lot more clear as we start looking at actual data and inputting actual data. But most of what we're going to be doing in this video is creating this database and these tables, and we're going to do this through a stored procedure. So why don't we just initially drop this database altogether. So it now no longer exists within this system. And the BAP file we're going to use in order to create the stored procedure that creates all the tables within that database is called create universe. And if we look at this, essentially it does a drop database if it exists of DVD base, and then it creates the database with these default characteristics. And then we use that database because we need to have a database selected in order to create the stored procedure, because a stored procedure is always associated with a database. And the name of this stored procedure is create universe. And once again we set the delimiter to $, so we can use regular delimiters of semicolon for the commands within the stored procedure. And we do a drop table of each of the tables, and then a create table right afterwards. So we do a drop table if exists of DVDs, and a create table of DVDs. And here we see we have the primary key with the auto increment characteristic, and then we have the location and genre ID defined as ints. And we create what's called a constraint of saying a foreign key of location ID references location, the location table, and the location ID field. So location ID has the same name in the DVD table and the location table, which makes things more clear. And the second constraint of foreign key of genre ID which references the genre table and genre ID. And then when we look at the two tables that are called parent tables, ironically, and this is called a child table, but it seems kind of reversed to me. But if we look in the location and the genre table, we see we have our location ID, which is an int, and then we have a name, which is a varchar, which is the long name that's meaningful to humans. So the location is where the DVD is stored, and the genre is the type of movie or TV show or whatever that the individual title represents. And we've already looked at the genre table quite extensively in past videos, so this should be pretty clear. And in both cases, the primary key in the parent table is the foreign key in the child table. So that's where the connection lies between the tables, what's called the relation, which gives the name relational database to this type of database. Well, if we go into the console MySQL and at this point do a call to or actually a source to run the SQL script we're just looking at. So I do source and right click, since I copied this to the clipboard, and then hit enter. It says okay, it created the database and so on, and created the stored procedure. Now if we go back to our PHP admin and do a refresh, you'll see we now have the DVD base database, but we have no tables, because what we've done is we've created a stored procedure that creates the tables, but we haven't run the stored procedure yet. And I could just do a call from the MySQL console of the stored procedure name. So do call create universe parent semicolon, and that would create the tables, as long as I have a used DVD base before that. But since we're dealing with MySQL connector /net, I might as well do that in a program instead. So here's our program to create the universe, or create all the tables within that database. And if we look at the code for this, in a way it's a very simplified version of the code we already looked at for stored procedure with insert, because we don't have to deal with the parameter collection anymore. There is no parameter collections because we have no parameters going in or out. So within the form load, we just instantiate the MySQL connection with a connection string, and then do a connection open. And as long as those both succeed, this just is totally invisible. You know, the form just comes out without showing anything. But if that doesn't work, we get a MySQL exception and do a message box show that said the connection failed, and display the error. And of course, before we do any of this, we had to have right-clicked on the references in the Solution Explorer and done an add reference in the .NET section, and gone down and selected mysql.data, which we've already done. And you look over in the Solution Explorer, and there's MySQL data added as a reference, which brings in the DLL. And then at the top we need a using mysql.data.mysql client. In order for all the MySQL calls to be valid. So the second thing we need to look at is the event handler for the Create Universe button. And that, once again, is very simplified compared to the insert. All we do is create a MySQL command that references the name of the stored procedure, Create Universe, and has the connection object as a second parameter. And then we set the command type to command type.storedProcedure because we're running a stored procedure, and then do command.execute non-query. And as long as all this worked, which means we've created our 3 tables, everything runs perfectly. But if it didn't work, we get an exception that says create all tables stored procedure failed, and display the actual error message we got. Maybe we should do something like put a message box that says all tables created. So we get some feedback that, yeah, we created the tables. It doesn't just look like we pushed a button and nothing happened. So if we compile and run this, and it comes up with no errors so far, so we did the connection okay. And if we click on the Create Universe, oh, interesting, we got an error. Well, let's try this again. I got a all tables stored procedure created all tables works this time, and what I changed was I moved the create DVD table from the first table to the third table, which I don't know why I had it for the first table in the first place, but obviously these foreign key references aren't going to work unless these tables have already been created. So once I changed that, we got rid of the error, which is a good test of the negative side of that running. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot, and we're going to continue with the development of this project in the following videos, which I think is a lot more interesting than just learning things in the abstract the way we've been doing previously. I'll see you in those videos, and if you enjoyed this, I appreciate it if you'd subscribe.